there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is a place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from Anchorage, Alaska today, and super excited for folks that are jumping on and hopping on to listen today. We want to thank our show sponsor, Gungerstein for Senate, for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska Show. It's because of her sponsorship that we're able to get conservative news through all the nooks and crannies of Alaska. We're very excited for that. We actually ran into her last night at an event, and she was very excited about being on the campaign trail, being in Anchorage, meeting folks. It's the first time she's running. So folks, I want to encourage you to go check her out. She's a nonpartisan candidate running for U.S. Senate, and she is pro-energy and has got a couple things to say about how Joe Biden's not doing a great job running the country. And we also want to remind folks that we do have a Must Read Alaska app. If you go to the iTunes store or Android store on your smartphone, you just type in Must Read Alaska, and the app pops up right there. It's free to download for anybody. If you do use it, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And the fun news of today is currently we are the top 200 podcasts in the government section in 3 different countries right now, which is pretty exciting. Austria, Switzerland, and the United States. We are the top 200 podcasts on iTunes. So thank you so much for listening, folks. Small operation, just Suzanne and I doing this, beating folks with $1 million budgets, which is also very exciting. But without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest today, Nancy Dahlstrom, who is former commissioner of the Department of Corrections and former state house member. She is on the Dunleavy ticket running for lieutenant governor. Nancy, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'm so excited you're with us. I think folks are hopefully going to be excited to watch this. They get an opportunity to get to know you and get to know you as a person. I got to know you a little bit down in Juneau, and just love the fact that you're on the Dunleavy ticket. Tell the folks a little bit about where you grew up and what brought you to Alaska in the first place.
Okay, I'll give you a few facts. Hopefully they're interesting to folks. I actually was born in Baltimore, Maryland. My dad was serving in the Army there at the time, and my family lived in Washington, D.C. area till I was about 8. And then at that point, my dad had left the military. He was working for Allstate Insurance and was transferred to the Utah area, and so that's where we moved. I lived there until I was 18, and interesting enough, my girlfriend and I decided to move to Alaska the summer that we were both 18. She had connections in Alaska. Her father was at the time an officer on Fort Richardson, and we were going to come up and stay with him and enjoy all the beauties of Alaska and then go back and continue on with our life. And interesting, both of us decided to stay and made Alaska our home, and here I am, 40 years later almost. So I live in Alaska by choice. It's my home by choice, and thrilled to be here. I grew up in a family of 6 kids. I was the oldest, and anybody that comes in a little bit larger family knows there's always tons of responsibility and things that come with that. So I'm used to hard work. I'm used to doing things, getting them done, and just looking out for what's the best for a group, because that's what you do when you're in a big family.
Well, that's awesome. Well, somewhere along the lines, you're in Alaska, you're into your career, or you're partway through, you've had a family, and you figured out, okay, I need to run for office. Something is not working here. Tell us about that story of why you first ran for office, and what did that look like? What is your story of, finally having enough and wanting to run for office?
Well, you're right in that I've raised a family. My husband and I have 4 children, and the youngest one was just getting ready to complete high school, and there were some things happening politically, right around me that I became aware of that I really, really didn't like. One of those was there was some big support for state-funded abortions, and I absolutely disagreed with that. I don't think the state should be in the business of funding that. And the other thing interesting was the PFD, and there were many arguments and discussions about it, almost like we still have now. But at the time, my strong feeling was that should we break into the PFD and do other things other than what were aligned in statute, that we should put it to a vote of the people. Here we are all these years later. I still feel strongly that if we're going to change the PFD, we should put it to a vote of the people. I trust Alaskans' judgment, and I think it would be the best, most honest way to do it. So some of those strong reasons of why I ran in the first place still play into, what's happening today, interesting enough.
So tell me about some of the things that you were excited that you accomplished in the State House. I believe you were in there from 2003 to 2010. Talk a little bit about a couple of those accomplishments and why you were proud of them.
Well, a big thing is I was able to represent part of the military base when I was in the House, and I was proud of the fact that so many Alaskans were involved with the military, that we support the military so much, and that we were able to be there during very stressful times for them. Unfortunately, I attended a lot of funerals and a lot of memorial services for members who were killed protecting our country. I did have an opportunity to co-chair the Joint Armed Services Committee. That was great. We were able to create a special honor, a pin, for those that were lost in the line of service, and had a big ceremony. It was a pretty big deal. We brought family members from all around the country to Alaska to be awarded this little pin, but big award from Alaska.
That's awesome. So Dunleavy wins, Dunleavy runs for governor, he wins. He appoints you as the Department of Corrections Commissioner. Talk to us a little bit about how that felt, what was going through your mind. Is this something that you've always wanted to do? Well,
I have not always strived to be involved in corrections, but what I do care and have always cared about is strong public safety and the responsibility that the state has in keeping, citizens safe. It's in our Constitution. It's something that we always need to be striving to improve on. I had the opportunity to serve on a committee that was gathering information, before that final vote that November, and was involved with things that were happening with corrections. And so I was pretty aware of some changes that we were recommending be made that would strengthen public safety outside of prison walls, but also inside prison walls, because, we have an obligation to keep everybody safe in there. I mean, obviously, the medical people, the mental health people, the officers, the administrative people running those facilities, but even the inmates, we have a responsibility to keep everybody safe. And then, inmates, when they've done their time and served their penance to society, and they're released, we provide opportunities in there for them to better themselves, and we hope that they will take advantage of them.
So you step in as the Department of Corrections Commissioner. Was the department in shambles? Was it in good shape? What were some of the things that you were able to tackle and succeed in terms of reform or change?
John, I would never say that the department was in shambles, because the people that work in corrections are, they're among the best. They are absolutely dedicated to what they do. There's over 2,100 people that work in the Department of Corrections in the various areas. There were some policies that had been put in place that myself and the governor absolutely disagreed with. There was amnesty boxes in the facilities where if people had drugs or paraphernalia of any type on them that they shouldn't have, that they were able to go to the box and put their item in and not be disciplined for having that. There was a day pass program where inmates who had been sentenced by the court to serve their time were being allowed to leave the prison facility, sometimes up to 12 hours, to attend things like church on Sundays or other events. I was given a pretty strong case by some folks about why that was a really good thing, but it all boiled down to the fact that the court had sentenced people to a term that they needed to complete, and on top of that, we have a huge responsibility to care about victims. And I had a huge concern that victims were not being notified, that this person, may be out of the facility for a certain time, supposedly with somebody who was like their chaperone. If crimes had been committed by that person, it just could have gotten real ugly real fast. So I did cut that off. There was also a program where spouses and some other volunteers could be in the prison facilities for unlimited amount of time. I just didn't feel that complied with the sentence that the inmates, were to be serving, and in itself it created a big public safety issue. And we had a big contraband issue, and every prison in the world will always be challenged with keeping contraband, out, but not having visitors roaming around freely and having access to different things, I think, was a big step in stopping that from happening here.
Yeah, I always think of the Department of Correction staff that are at these jail facilities as heroes because, they're literally risking their lives every day. State troopers would be other folks that are heroes, and they run into, shenanigans probably multiple times